You will never, I repeat, never watch movies or television the same ever again. It's like I'm watching the movie, but what I'm really watching is I'm watching myself, my physical body sitting in a chair staring at a screen. That's what I really am seeing. Welcome back to another Vibes and Frequencies video. My name's Nathan, and if you happen to be new to my channel here, I make videos about high vibrational crystals because they are seriously profound tools of transformation that deserve to be talked about. And in this Vibes and Frequencies video, I'm talking about the weirdest Moldavite effects, okay? So this is a piece of Moldavite here, if you haven't seen one before, by chance. And these are weird effects that you could expect from working with Moldavite that nobody talks about. And I have a very good feeling that you have not heard at least half of these, and at the same time, if you are somebody who works with Moldavite, I guarantee you that at least half of these you're gonna go, oh my gosh, I totally experienced that. The very first weird Moldavite effect that you haven't heard of before is something that can manifest perhaps slightly differently depending on your life situation and like what you do, I guess, if that makes sense. For me though, I title this effect as you will never, I repeat, never watch movies or television the same ever again. And you're probably thinking, what the heck does a Moldavite crystal have to do with any of that? And what it has to do with is this. It's like Moldavite kind of has this interesting detachment type effect to it, where you can kind of see yourself from bird's eye perspective. And the way that this manifests for me with this weird effect of never being able to watch TV again the same way is because I'll be sitting on the couch or in my chair or whatever, right, to watch a show, and I can't focus in on the show. It's like I could try as hard as I want, but there's no such thing as casual like watching anymore or deep watching, because all I can see is myself from a bird's eye perspective, like up here, sitting in a chair trying to watch a show. Instead of totally becoming enveloped with the screen and really getting into the show, instead of being able to have that experience, I find myself sitting in my chair with my feet up, staring at the screen and seeing all the characters and this whole storyline, and I can still follow it, but instead of being able to zone in and the whole screen becomes my reality, I see it all from a bird's eye perspective up here. It's like I'm watching the movie, but what I'm really watching is I'm watching myself, my physical body sitting in a chair staring at a screen. That's what I really am seeing. I know that sounds weird. If you relate to this, if you know what I'm talking about with this effect, definitely comment below and let me know if you relate to this. Moldavite has this way about it where it can really like kind of detach us from reality, which you could interpret as a bad thing. I personally enjoy it, so I think it's a good thing, but I feel like nobody really talks about this effect, especially not with like television and movies. And again, this might manifest differently for you. For me, I see it with television and movies because that's what I used to spend my free time doing a lot, is watching those things. I can't do it anymore. I could try to sit there and I could go, okay, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna hone into this TV show and really enjoy it, and I just can't. So, that is the weird Moldavite effect number 1. So let's go on to number 2. Weird Moldavite effect number 2 is that your sleep is going to be much less necessary. And what I mean by this is, let's just say that you sleep an average of 8 hours a night, and that's the amount that works for you. When you bring Moldavite into your life, and I'm really asking you to, if you've noticed this, please comment below and let me know. I have gone from sleeping an average of 8 hours a night and having that be like the required amount for me to like feel good, to down to 4 to 5 hours. And it's not like I'm walking around zombie-like. I mean, you guys, for those of you who are my subscribers, you've probably noticed in my content, I'm pretty intense and pumped all the time. I got a lot of energy. And to me, this has a lot to do with Moldavite. And the fact that I have so much more pumped energy going on in my life and require so much less amount of sleep, I am super productive. I've got so much energy to have fun and be social if I feel like it. I have time to do whatever I want, and instead of spending this huge majority of, you know, the 24 hours in a day cycle sleeping, instead of spending a huge portion of that, it's like I don't have to anymore. And I tend to not want to, because I find actually if I do go and I intentionally sleep like 8 hours, then I feel like a zombie. So this is the perfect number. I'm in a bush. Oh, jeez. I want to go ahead and let you know that it's not like I'm like too hyper or having anxiety and I can't sleep. This doesn't, for me, come from a place of not being able to sleep. It just comes from a place of needing much less sleep. And my personal belief as to why this is happening for me personally is that I believe it's because I am more often in my day in a state of restfulness, okay? So I think a lot of times we need sleep because we need to put ourselves in this space of like stillness and getting like rest and like connecting to source energy to kind of like vibe us up again so we can wind back up and let ourselves run off, right? When we wake up. But Moldavite for me keeps me in a very meditative state for most of the day. So because I'm most of the time always in a state of restfulness, I believe this is why I need to hibernate specifically less. So let's go ahead and get into the weird Moldavite effect you didn't know about, number 3. So the third strange effect you didn't expect from Moldavite is that it's going to lead you to other crystals. Now stay tuned because this isn't as boring as it sounds up front. I'm not talking about the fact that Moldavite is, for a lot of people, the crystal that wakes them up to the power of crystals. As in, this was the case for me, and I know a lot of other folks as well. And it's not just that it wakes you up to it and you get excited about crystals and want to buy more. There's this kind of strange sensation that is felt with Moldavite where you just have other crystals start calling your name. It's got this interesting, unique feeling to it that if you've worked with Moldavite, you know what I'm talking about. And we all know that Moldavite is incredible at increasing our intuition. It kind of activates an intuitive feel within us. And I see this manifest differently for a lot of people, right? Perhaps you're a seer, for instance, or perhaps, you know, you're more of like an empathetic intuitive, right? So you'll notice that all of a sudden, different crystals are going to start triggering this intuitive feel within you. And you'll notice it activating from your Moldavite as well. So you'll get this Moldavite feeling when you're looking at a specific crystal, for example. And I find that I'm like become totally obsessed with those crystals and then I have to bring them into my life. So if you've noticed this, please let me know again below. I'm excited to talk to you guys about this and see if you relate to these weird effects. So that's going to take us to number 4. Number 4 is kind of the most risque one that I'm going to be talking about, guys. And so I'm really hoping that someone will say something about this down below and help me out with this one, because this one I'm bringing up more for conversational sake. Now, this is that the next weird Moldavite effect is that recreational like use of drugs is specifically what I'm talking about. So anything you could think of, I'm talking drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette, smoking some weed, to whatever extent you want to relate this to. Recreational drugs stop working. Normally, in the past, I would use whatever to get high and alter my state of consciousness, right? And that worked for me for the reason I was doing it. I was trying to detach or just feel good, whatever. Enter Moldavite, suddenly I still have the habit of like wanting to take drugs, and I still have it as a belief system that those would help me in the beginning when I started working with Moldavite, right? So I would go to get high, and I of course would get high. It's not like it just completely doesn't work like it's a bunk substance. But what would happen is I wouldn't enjoy it. That's what I mean by recreational drugs stop working. It's very interesting. It's like I would experience the consciousness shift of whatever substance it was I would be taking, but there wouldn't be any enjoyment from it. It's like they wouldn't fulfill this weird piece of me that they would normally fulfill. And I think what the piece was that I'm really talking about here is that normally when I would get high or like binge drink, it would black out a certain part of my brain. So I would be completely in the moment, not thinking about other things. I'd just be totally effed up, right? So it's like now with Moldavite, if I were to do something like this, like with anything, I could feel the effects of it and get effed up, but I'm still awake. There's like this part of my brain that I used to love getting high for because it would turn that part of my brain off. And now it doesn't matter if I use any substances, that part of my brain is constantly on. And it's like this consciousness piece of my brain. It's the awareness part. So I know that that sounds kind of strange, but I want to throw that out there for you guys. I really am curious if anybody else relates to this. So this is a good thing. I'm not complaining. I have saved from my 7-year drug addiction, right? I went to rehab like multiple times for it, but it's another story for another video. I could laugh about it now. So this is going to bring me to benefit number 5, or effect number 5, that you have not heard of. By the way, guys, just side note, sorry if I'm all like sweaty and gross. Not that I have to apologize to you. I guess I'm just trying to explain it to you so you don't think I'm gross. It is literally 87 degrees out right now, and it's like 10 o'clock at night. So this is the weather that I've been living in. It was 108 degrees today, super intense. So that's why I'm filming at night, is because this is the coolest it's gonna be for me today. Anyways, back to the video. Benefit effect number 5 that you were not aware of is that you will experience a radical shift in diet. And this I'm gonna come out with a different angle as well. But first things first is just that you will notice that all of a sudden you start craving different kinds of foods. And for me, I noticed that foods that I have loved my entire life started making me feel sick. Now, granted, these were unhealthy foods that would normally make you not feel well, but it didn't really bother me. Like, I didn't really realize that I didn't feel well. Enter Moldavite. Again, it's kind of this place in the brain where the consciousness just turns on a little bit, maybe more than you're used to. And suddenly, like, my whole sensitivity became, well, more sensitive. So foods that I would be eating, like pizza was my favorite, suddenly would be making me feel very sick and nauseous, and it would make me feel horrible. And I would start being drawn to other foods. I became like a kale addict. Kale and honeydew melon. Oh my gosh, I ate so much of that the first month of Moldavite. And this is the thing, is I experienced a radical shift, and I wasn't trying to be healthier. So this is what I'm poking at here. I do believe that Moldavite leads us to a healthier diet, but there's another piece of this as well that I want to mention. I found that I eat incredibly, incredibly healthy, and I eat a raw vegan diet, except for once every few months since I've worked with Moldavite, there are these weird episodes where Moldavite can kind of make us feel really uncomfortable, and it brings up like a lot of shadow work. This tends to be when we put things off. This is a Moldavite benefit that you guys all know. I know that you've heard of this one. It helps you to do this like inner work, right? In these periods of shadow work, if I am not giving it my full intention and attention to grow myself further in that, if I decide to curl inward instead of working on it, and I'm with my Moldavite, I will have seriously massive binge eating episodes, guys. I'm talking the worst foods that I never even ate in the first place before. Find myself just sitting there eating, just going ham like an infinite stomach, making myself so sick and just keep going. I've never been that way in my entire life, and it is this feeling that Moldavite brings up, that if I don't work on myself the way that I normally would when working with Moldavite, aka when something comes up and Moldavite brings up this layer to confront it. Allow yourself to look inward, maybe meditate on it, do the inner work, and then it's like you get to release that layer, and it creates space to bring in new positive vibes for yourself, right? Helps us to grow ourselves spiritually. If I decide that I don't feel like doing spiritual work and I'm just going to allow myself to feel bad, it snowball effects huge. At least for me, and I see it manifest mostly with unhealthy food. So that's the 5th thing I wanted to talk about. I haven't really heard anybody else talk about this, to be honest. I find that it makes you eat incredibly healthy and have weird, random, unhealthy binge eating. So, you know, throwing this out there. Let me know what you guys think below. If there is a weird Moldavite effect that I didn't mention that you think that I could relate to and maybe anybody else could relate to, put that below. Let's talk about our weird Moldavite effects, and definitely let me know if you've experienced any of these. Thanks for watching this Vibes and Frequencies video, guys. Once again, my name's Nathan. I will see you in a day from today for my next Vibes and Frequencies video. And if you liked and enjoyed this video, do not forget, please, to go down and click that like button. I know it's not always what we're thinking about when watching a YouTube video, but it helps my videos out a lot to reach more people and helps me to make my videos better. So like, drop that comment, and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you in another day for another video. Bye, guys. Have an awesome day.